Hello everyone, I'm glad I've gotten around to making another movie related video here on my movie channel. And I want to tell you what I'm undertaking. This is a goal that I have every year around this time when the fall starts kicking in, and that's to do a universal horror series of videos. And I start a lot of times, never finish. I'm going to see if I can do it this time, one step at a time, one film at a time. And I decided that I'm not just going to stick with Universal films this time. I'm going to go to a lot of different studios like MGM and Paramount and so on, and everybody else that made horror films, even independent companies. The goal here this year, as we get into September and soon to be October and the Halloween season, the goal is to make a whole attempt at watching as many 1930s and 1940s horror movies as I can. That's the goal, the 30s and the 40s. So that's horror. All right. And there's some films that I don't have yet I've seen before, but I don't own on Blu-ray that I'm going to be getting. So let's start with the first one, the first real talking horror film. And of course, that's the classic from 1931 that's celebrating its 90th anniversary. Can you believe it? 90 years old this movie is this year. And it's none other than Dracula, the first Universal talkie, and the classic starring Bela Lugosi. You'll notice I'll always call Lugosi Bela. I don't say Bella. And I've always grown up saying Bella. That's the way it is. And over the years, I've learned that the correct pronunciation is Bela. So you'll hear me say Bela. Well, what can I say about the classic film Dracula? Well, everybody knows that this film is iconic mostly because of Lugosi's interpretation as Count Dracula. A lot of times you'll say Lugosi is Dracula and Dracula is Bela Lugosi. He is my favorite Dracula. There are some runners up, Christopher Lee being number two, but we'll leave that for later videos. But I got to tell you, folks, this film, good as it is a film that I've had problems with over the decades. And I've seen this film numerous times. I know it forward and backward. I know it like the back of my hand. However, some people will say, and rightly so, it's kind of a stagey movie. It's not shot as well as, say, James Whale's Frankenstein, which we'll get to at another time. This movie, any time that I watch this movie, I find myself falling asleep. Now, part of that is because I've seen it so many times, but every time Halloween comes around and I start with Dracula, inevitably, after the first, say, 10 or 15 minutes, I will be nodding off because it's so hypnotic, this movie. It's kind of slow, kind of talky, kind of stagey. The whole thing was shot in a kind of stage bound presentation way, as if you were watching a play and you're sitting in maybe the front row of a theater or second or third row and you're watching all the actors doing their jobs, walking across the screen and talking. Now, of course, we know that Lugosi was phenomenal for his interpretation of the vampire Dracula and how he would speak, very slowly, I am, what is it, chartering a ship to take us to England. We will be leaving tomorrow evening. Very slow, like that. Very, very creepy and very effective. However, other actors talk like that too, like Edward Van Sloan, who plays Van Helsing, the vampire hunter, the vampire expert. Uh, he tends to talk, whatever, I don't know the exact word. I will have proof that the curiosity can become the scientific reality of today. It's very slow. But I got to tell you, I haven't really talked about the Spanish version here of Dracula. There's a Spanish version that was made. I don't mean this one dubbed into Spanish. I mean a whole different crew, a whole different set of actors that gathered together on the night that this was filmed. The Dracula American version was shot on the sets and during the day. Then at night, the Spanish actors and crew would come in and use all the sets and shoot their version at night. Back then, in those days, it wasn't just that you dubbed a movie in another language, you actually shot a movie. You had to shoot it in Spanish, speaking Spanish, and such. I'll get to that maybe another time. I don't know if I'm going to get to it in this series, we'll see, but eventually I'll get to the Spanish Dracula. I'll just say, while there's a lot of interesting moments in the Spanish Dracula, while in a lot of ways it's unsettling and it's dark and eerie and creepy, and in some ways it's more effective as far as the look of the film and the cinematic style of the film and the shooting of it, the atmosphere. One thing is missing dearly, and that's Carlos Villa. I've heard it two ways in the credits of the Spanish version. It's Carlos Villa, and I've heard him also call Carlos Valerius. Well, I always say Valerius is hilarious because I think that the centerpiece is supposed to be the actor who plays Dracula, and in the Spanish version, I just tend to think that Carlos Villa, or Valerius, if you will, is just unintentionally ridiculous in the role, and that kind of ruins all the ambiance and all the trappings that is so good in the Spanish version. You need Lugosi in this. If you could take Lugosi, put the American cast in the Spanish version, and you'd be all right. Now, in addition to Bela Lugosi, you have, as I said, Edward Van Sloan, who was really good as Professor Van Helsing. He's just really slow and methodical and tries to figure out the mystery. And you have as Renfield, who becomes Dracula's servant and slave character here, we have Dwight Frye. Dwight Frye is phenomenal. Everybody knows his sardonic laugh. That's creepy in itself. I think that's great. He's the one who eats spiders and flies to get their blood. And the rest of the cast, kind of interchangeable. I mean, Helen Chandler is the leading lady. You have David Manners as Jonathan Harker. Interesting how this is not very much like the book, and I think the changes here from the book are for the better most part. I like the idea, for example, in the first 10 or 15 minutes, which is the highlight of the movie. I mean, whatever you say about the slow pacing of the movie, the first 10 or 15 minutes is perfect. A must see. Creepy, eerie, unsettling as all hell. Okay, when Renfield goes to Dracula's castle in Transylvania to sell him some insurance, real estate, if you will. Not insurance, I said real estate. He's an insurance salesman. Real estate. He's a real estate salesman. He should have got life insurance for Renfield for himself. And he encounters Dracula. And Dracula is a real bastard in this movie. He's a real villain. He's really not a nice guy. And I got to say, that's one of the things I like about this. Because in later editions, such as Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola, which I do not like. I'm not a fan of that movie because Dracula's too much of a lover and too much of a softie, and he just doesn't seem like a true villain. This guy is a ruthless villain. This is a monster, and he'll go after you. And he'll make you his servant. He'll completely degrade you, completely own you, and completely just throw the bodies on the side. That's Dracula. He's supposed to be a guy to be feared. Even if there's a little bit of love there in his past, and we know from the novel from Bram Stoker, that Dracula could also have been a good lover, a great lover back in his day. But those days are gone, and now he's an undead thing of evil. So I like that. And what I could say about it is there's no musical score here, but for some reason the lack of music really hurts this film in a way, I think. Unlike Frankenstein. Frankenstein also has no music, but yet it works wonderfully. The lack of music in Frankenstein works in its favor. In this particular movie, I think it kind of draws attention to its sleepiness, to tell you the truth. But in a way, even though I keep calling this film kind of boring at spots and dull in spots, I have to say it's worth staying awake for, because when the scenes are good, they're good. Scenes, for example, like when Dracula's found out by Van Helsing in the mirror image. He doesn't cast a reflection in the mirror. That whole scene with Dracula being discovered, for example, is fantastic. When he's found out and his cover is blown with the mirror. Love that scene. I also love an encounter later in the film when you have Van Helsing confronting Dracula. They have kind of a stare down, if you will. They kind of test their battle of wills between each other, where Dracula commands Van Helsing to come here, and Van Helsing tries to fight the vampire's spell. I love all that. Yeah, this is a good movie. It's a good movie. It's a classic movie. I can't say it's excellent, though, for that reason. I think there are better films in the series, including Frankenstein, which I keep mentioning is better than Dracula. But yeah, you have to enjoy this. It's in some ways. I think you can get something out of this if you try it out. And there's good to be had in this film. Okay, so thank you everybody for watching. Now I'm going to try to see if I'm going to rate these films. I don't have the ability yet to where I'm going to like put numbers on the screen or anything. I'll try, but and I always say I like to rate out of 4 stars. If I was rating this from on a 4-star scale, it would get a 3 out of 4 stars, which means basically good. 3 is good, 4 is excellent. If I was rating it on a scale of 10 stars, 10 points, I would give Dracula a 7 out of 10. Thanks, everybody. Take care.